Ketamine is such a harmful chemical, and it rules the brain. And it's ruling my son's brain now, and has done for the last 5 years.
It completely consumed my mind. I couldn't leave bed for days, I couldn't eat anything, because in some ways I held a lot of resentment against myself and guilt.
I had an internal snap at one point. I didn't quite want to kill myself. As I look back at it now, I think maybe I just wanted to kill the addict in me. I always thought at some point it would be maybe something that I would grow out of. Yeah, my name's Tom. I was reached out to raise awareness of addiction, from my understanding as well, just to sort of speak about my experience with the abuse of ketamine.
I'm 24 and I'm a team leader at a travel agency.
Yes, I have 2 sons in their 20s, but they both live at home.
So I had a really good childhood, a really nice upbringing. As I come into higher school, I felt like I didn't really fit in.
Our relationship with my eldest son was very good when he was young. He was very bright, very articulate, very curious, lots of energy. And so it was a good relationship, probably up to the age of about 12. But about 12, he started to push away.
I think it was a very early sign that my mentality was always someone who was prone to addiction. You know, from that very young age, it was very much became the centre of my life. You know, my life would revolve around it. I'd sell sort of possessions, I'd steal money for it.
My parents brought me up in the way to know that, you know, what drugs were about, the consequences of using drugs. Yeah, around the age of 16, sort of hanging around with people that were a lot older than me, and I started to go to festivals, house parties with a lot of older people. I would say that I started smoking cannabis and using cocaine and alcohol quite frequently.
I started using drugs at quite a young age, probably about 14. Standard progression, going from weed, then on to sort of party drugs. I was involved in the illegal rave scene, and that seemed to become a popular drug on the scene. It was me really looking for a form to escape. As far as I really see it, there was an emotional problem that I had at some point in my teenage years. I took a drug and it felt like it went away. And ketamine was very good at blocking things out.
As far as I'm fully aware, he didn't start to take ketamine until he was almost 20, but he was involved in cannabis, to quite some degree. And I don't think we really knew until we were drugs raided. It did traumatise him to some extent, my son, but that didn't necessarily stop him.
Yeah, they sold it really well to me. Said that, it gives you this out-of-body experience, it gives you euphoria, you don't feel anything when you're on it, it makes you feel happy. I didn't have a very good experience with it. I took way too much of it, to the point that I fell unconscious for about 45 minutes. I had to be seen by paramedics, but what was going on for me was exactly that, an out-of-body experience. Just got completely hooked by the drug. I loved it. I loved the feeling that it gave me.
Basically, at the time he was taken, he had been arrested. He was waiting for a court hearing. That's when he started taking ketamine, after he was arrested, because he thought he would go to prison. And there was a good possibility he would go to prison. Obviously very worried about the effects that would have on us as well as him. I think he was very unhappy. And the ketamine, I think it really helped him detach himself from reality. I don't think he quite realised the severity of the world he was mixing in and the consequences of that. And I think it was the ketamine just, he was seeking oblivion, I guess.
It gets to the point that you honestly want to stop and you feel that you can't stop entirely. Or if when you're using you have little or no control over the amount that you take, you might be an addict. I look back at photos of myself now. I was very unwell, I was gaunt, I was underweight. But the thing is, I didn't see it at the time. I remember my dad, bless him, I remember sort of coming home one point and he's telling himself, have you looked at yourself in the mirror recently, boy? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? But the thing is, I couldn't see it.
It got to the stage where I was taking ketamine all the time, night and day. But I would notice he would gain weight, lose weight, that kind of thing. He stopped being so engaged in life.
And then it increased to my liver function deteriorating. you've taken in so much ketamine into your body and it recrystallises within inside the gallbladder, so your body can't break it down. So you have an intense pain going across your chest and your back for days on end. It makes you nauseous. And at that point, my bladder had halved in size, around 200 mils, my bladder capacity was.
But this is one of the side effects of the drug, that it shrinks the bladder. And he can hold no more than 100 ml of liquid in his bladder. So he has to, quite often it's every 3 to 5 minutes.
Within a couple of months, I was in so much physical pain with internal cystitis. I could hardly walk. I couldn't go anywhere without being close to a toilet. I could hardly get out of bed. And I physically couldn't function throughout my day without using it, because the problem is that the ketamine takes the pain away of the internal cystitis and the bladder problems. So then you become in a vicious cycle. The ketamine takes away the pain, but it's what's causing it, until the point that I needed to be taken to rehab because I couldn't eat anything, I couldn't keep fluids down, I couldn't leave my bed without using, so it really did affect my life, yeah.
He got diagnosed with sepsis on middle to late March. Because of the blood tests he was having at the doctor's, the doctor had phoned the NNN and he'd gone straight into intensive care because all his blood was wrong. He was too ill to get in the car because of his medical condition.
I always thought at some point it would be maybe something that I would grow out of. I was pointed towards the direction of support, but to be honest, I wasn't done. I'd crossed the line, I'd said I'd never inject it. Next thing you know, I'm injecting heroin as well as injecting ketamine. My mum said it got to the point that, every time she would get a phone call, past 9 o'clock, she was generally thinking maybe that is the phone call that's going to say that the boy is dead.
We managed to get him up to the NNN, straight into intensive care, and he pulled through. He was in hospital for 24 days. He had biliary sepsis that affected his kidneys, his liver and his bladder. They said he was very lucky and, he wouldn't have survived, not even another week. It would have killed him. And at that point, he didn't want to live particularly. He was still trying to get someone to deliver ketamine. He said he didn't want to live. He didn't care. He'd given up. He was taking ketamine in his room on his own, night and day. It wasn't a sociable thing. That had long gone.
My best friend lost her life. Very similar story to me, very similar behaviours. She fought to try and beat her addiction, but unfortunately it just got the better of her. So after that had happened, I put down the drug for a very long time. But the worst mistake I ever did was pick it back up again, because unfortunately ketamine feeds off of grief or guilt or any sort of emotional trauma, because it blocks everything out, which is why I think it's a very popular drug nowadays among our generation, with anxiety and mental health issues. But just accelerated my addiction the last 2 years to the point where I couldn't stop. It absorbed my life.
My point when I finally did reach out for help, because it was realising that I'd progressed on to the sort of highest in my eyes of substances there, and something just snapped in me going, this isn't going to get any better, Tom. You've done the drugs now, you're still feeling empty and dark inside. So
I began to seek support. I realised the damage that I was causing. It was the worst I had become. I wasn't eating anything. I'd lost about 3 or 4 stone in weight. And the pain, I just couldn't deal with the pain anymore. I'd lost friends. I was isolating in my room using ketamine. The destruction I'd caused to my family was horrific. Everything just come crumbling down on me. It was affecting my job. I had managers trying to speak to me to, ask me what's wrong and offer support. But typical me, I pushed them all away. So it come to the point where I was just at breaking point. I'd hit rock bottom. I didn't know where else to turn. And I generally thought I was having serious suicidal thoughts about ending my life, because I couldn't get out of this cycle. I didn't want to be this person. I didn't want to use. But I just couldn't stop. It was like a mental obsession in my mind with it.
And we won't give up, but my son's got medical conditions that he'll have for the rest of his life. I don't think he'll make a grand old age at all now. And the bladder, they've told him, the bladder will not recover, and there needs to be a lot more help out there and a lot more awareness and less stigma about drugs, less looking down on people that take drugs. I think more openness, more kindness. You've got to look after yourself as well. You've got to find ways of coping.
So I one day just woke up and went into work and said to them, this is what's going on. I have a ketamine addiction. My health's deteriorating rapidly and I need help urgently because I'm scared that I'm going to lose my life from it. And I then went into a rehabilitation centre for 6 weeks, and they really helped me. I've done a lot of work on myself.
Well, I came into recovery at 33. I only properly tried to sort of stop at about 30 because, to be honest, I didn't really expect to live through quite that long. Once I'd escaped my own difficulties, it was drilled into me that one of the key things of my recovery is to help other people, but it becomes less of a burden and it becomes actually something that I genuinely want to do. So if it gets to a point that any of the hardship, any of the pain that I've been through, if that can be recycled into being able to help somebody else, then maybe that is all something that makes it worthwhile.
I feel a lot more positive about my future now that I'm out of the pain that I was in. Doors that are open for me now. I can go travelling to more places. I couldn't even go on walks before, so I took a lot of things for granted. The longer I'm off ketamine, the more hope I have for having a family. That was one concern I had. I enjoy more things now. Before I couldn't even, go out to see a friend, or the first thing that was on my mind is to use ketamine just to get me through it. Or leave events earlier just so I could use, and now it's I'm free of that, and I'm just looking forward to having a peaceful future.
You feel like you're at the absolute end of things, if you feel like there's a point where it's beyond the help, there is always hope there, but it really comes from that point, from that little personal change within. And I've got so much hope for the future now. It's exciting.